You ever have one of those moments where your whole life does a hard left turn before you've even unpacked your bags? Yeah, that was me. First morning at the ranch I inherited from my grandpa, hadn't even cracked open a bottle of water, and here comes trouble in high heels. Let me tell you, if you think all that Texas hospitality is universal, you've never met a suburban Karen with a power complex and an HOA title. I swear I'd barely set foot on my own gravel drive before I heard the sharp staccato click heels on rock cutting through the air like gunfire. Excuse me. Her voice had that I run this neighborhood edge, the kind of sound that makes your stomach clench before you even turn around. She was maybe early 40s, all business, slicked back hair, black power suit, sunglasses like she thought the sun worked for her. I'm Christine Blackwood, president of Willowbrook Estates HOA. That pond has to go. Today. Just like that, pointed at the water like it was some kind of eyesore, waved her hand dismissively and stood there waiting for me to say, "Yes, ma'am." Now, maybe it was the exhaustion, maybe it was my grandpa's stubborn streak kicking in, but I couldn't help laughing, which turns out only made her madder. "The pond," I said. "You want me to get rid of my grandfather's pond?" Christine narrowed her eyes, got real slow with her words like I was dense. "Yes. The pond violates HOA water feature policy, community aesthetic safety standards. You have until sunset to drain it or we'll take legal action." So there I was 14 minutes in and already on the wrong side of the law, all because of a pond Grandpa called the heart of this whole place. I tried to reason with her, said I'd just inherited the ranch and never heard about any HOA restrictions. But she just flashed me a frosty smile, pulled out a folder from her fancy bag and said, "Ignorance of the law isn't an excuse, Mr. Hayes. Your grandfather signed the HOA agreement in 2019. And she held up this document with a signature that looked enough like Grandpa's to fool a stranger, but I knew his handwriting like I knew my own. Something felt wrong. Before I could even process it, she was on her phone already calling the sheriff's department. "I need to report a violation posing a community safety risk." Her tone had that fake, sweet, overly reasonable pitch that only makes the threat worse. Meanwhile, I barely noticed the old man on the neighboring property watching us with an expression somewhere between concern and "I've seen this circus before." That was Sage Riverside Grandpa's oldest friend, but at the time I was too spun up to care. Christine shut her phone, satisfied. "Sheriff will be here in 30 minutes. I'd start making arrangements, Mr. Hayes. Welcome to the neighborhood." She walked off like she'd just won some prize, leaving me gaping in the dust. Sure enough, half an hour later, I hear diesel engines, see two patrol cars pull up, dust swirling like we're in some low-budget western. Sheriff Rogan Steele steps out, big guy face like weathered granite with the slow walk of someone who's seen too much. "Mr. Hayes," he says, tipping his hat, polite but heavy. "I understand we have a situation here. You have 1 hour to comply or we'll have to take you into custody." Body cam already blinking red. I tried to explain, tell him I'd just inherited the property, didn't know about any HOA. But Christine, right on cue, hands over the contract. "Everything's legal and binding, Sheriff." Sheriff Steele studies the document, frowning. "Known Jackson Hayes for 15 years, he mutters. "This doesn't look quite right." That's when Sage Riverside steps forward, silent but steady, and flashes a badge, Old Border Patrol, clearly legit. "Rogan," he says softly, and something changes in the air. Suddenly the sheriff's treating me like a possible victim, not a perp. "Mr. Hayes," he says, his voice careful, "you might want to call a lawyer. This is more complicated than it seems." Christine's mask cracks just a hair, and her voice wobbles. "HOA rules are the law. Sheriff, they supersede individual property rights." But she's not so sure anymore. Sheriff hands back the paperwork. "Ma'am, we'll be verifying this with the county clerk before any enforcement." She sputters. Sage stands tall, and as the cops drive away, Christine shoots me a look like she's planning my funeral. But her hands shook as she packed up her papers, and that's when I knew this wasn't over, not by a long shot. Now, if I'd been smart, I'd have unpacked my stuff, called it a day, but instead I wandered over to the fence where Sage was waiting. Up close, the man looked like he'd been carved out of mesquite, lean and sunburned, but his eyes were sharp as a hawk's. "Mr. Riverside, I'm Maverick Hayes Jackson's grandson. I think we need to talk." Sage smiled, sad and proud all at once. "Jackson talked about you plenty, son. Come on inside. There's things you need to know about that pond and about your grandfather's real work." Inside the place was all order photos on the wall, some with Grandpa beside Sage, some with law enforcement, and right at the center, a shot of the two of them standing by the pond. Sage pulled out a battered chest and unlocked it. Jackson asked me to give you these if anything happened to him, especially if anyone messed with the pond. Inside were contracts, real federal documents, not HOA stuff, one dated 1995, showing Grandpa had an agreement with Border Patrol making the pond a staging area for mounted patrol operations. Signed, notarized ironclad. There was even a codicil to his will made just 6 months before he died, naming me legal rep for all Border Patrol matters on the land. He'd seen this coming. But the twist, Sage also had photos years worth of Border Patrol agents at the pond rescue operations in one shot that made my stomach drop. Christine Blackwood smiling next to a Border Patrol officer at the very pond she now wanted gone. She's known what this was for years, Sage said, shaking his head. She even gave a speech thanking the Border Patrol at the barbecue Jackson threw. My phone rang. Number I didn't know. Mr. Hayes, this is Captain Sterling Voss, Border Patrol. We need to meet. There are things about your grandfather and that pond you need to know, and you're going to need our help. Turns out Grandpa had once saved Voss's life in the desert, and that pond had been a lifeline for lost migrants, agents, you name it. Your grandfather said water doesn't care about politics. Captain Voss told me the next day, standing by the pond with 2 agents and a woman named Maria Santos. He always said it was God's gift and his job was to protect it. I explained all this in a calm video and posted it online, laid out the contracts, the photos, the facts. No drama, just truth. The video blew up hashtag Karen V's Border Patrol trending, and folks online started digging into Christine's background. She doubled down hiring a PR firm, shooting a video about property values and federal overreach, but the tide was turning. People who'd believed her started asking questions, and an investigative reporter named Phoenix Martinez from Channel 5 came knocking with evidence that Christine had been buying up land around the ranch, using shell companies angling to flip the area into a luxury resort, provided she got rid of the pond. Then Phoenix dropped the bomb, the signature on that HOA contract forged. She had a handwriting expert, matching Grandpa's real signature against the one on the contract. Emails between Christine and developers spelled out a whole scheme. Once we eliminate the water feature, we can move ahead with luxury resort plans. Turns out she'd attended community events at the pond, praised the Border Patrol, and then spun around and used the HOA to serve her own ambitions. Money power, not community safety. Word got out. Residents were furious. A petition to remove Christine got hundreds of signatures in a day. But Christine wasn't done. She lawyered up, sent me a cease and desist, tried to sue me for defamation and Phoenix for reporting. Then the FBI called. Mr. Hayes, this is Agent Williams. We're opening a formal investigation based on forged federal documents and potential fraud. The feds rolled in, took evidence, coordinated with Border Patrol. Now it was a full-blown case. Christine tried one last desperate move, organized a community safety rally, gave a fiery speech, but when Phoenix confronted her live with photos and facts, Christine lost it. I did what I had to do to protect this community, she snapped. Not quite confessing, but not denying either. The FBI arrested her right there, charged her with federal document forgery and interfering with government operations. As they led her away, something in her broke. She spotted a kid near the pond, screamed for Tommy, and it all spilled out. She'd lost her son to a drowning accident years earlier, and ever since she'd obsessed over controlling every bit of water in her world. Suddenly it wasn't just greed, it was trauma, guilt, a grief she'd twisted into this crusade. The community was rocked. Some folks felt betrayed, others pitied her, but the truth was out. Christine was removed from the board. The pond was officially protected as federal property, and the HOA cleaned house. I wrote a letter to the prosecutor asking for leniency, mandatory grief counseling, community service about water safety instead of just jail. And you know what? Out of all that mess, something good came. We built a memorial garden by the pond, honoring kids lost to water accidents, including Christine's son. Border Patrol agents helped, neighbors helped, and little by little wounds healed. Christine herself, after serving time, started speaking to parent groups, sharing her story so others wouldn't go through the same hell. The pond is still there, saving lives, teaching kids a place for healing and remembrance. Some nights I look out my window at the water, see the wildflowers blooming, families visiting, and I think of Grandpa's words. Water doesn't care about politics, just keeps people alive. If you're still with me, Let me know what you'd have done in my place. Would you have fought back or walked away? Drop a comment. Hit like, subscribe to Harper Stories for more real-life drama, because if I've learned anything, it's that sometimes the real enemy isn't greed or rules or even other people. It's the pain we never deal with. And sometimes the best revenge is refusing to let that pain turn you into someone you're not.